Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I have to say one thing about the introduction in there. I did put a lot of things that I don't always put in there, like my violin playing. I started playing since I was 9, and my piano playing and that. You know what? As women, sometimes we don't always talk about how great we are, right? Or not saying I'm great, but how many things we do and where we excel. So I thought this is the time that I would put out everything I do, right? When I have this moment. So you put it in there. So. All right, so thank you, Jessica, for asking me to be here, and I'm so excited. I want to tell you I'm really honored to be here, and I want to just thank you right now for honoring me to come here, to pay the money, to put it on your calendar, to come and sit here. And I do have a little bad news. You have to listen to me before lunch, so I'm sorry. But the great news is I'm a fast talker, as you can hear. But I do want to say thank you, and I also want to just acknowledge very much thank you, Commissioner Merman. Sandy Merman is here in the house, as they say, so thank you very much that she's here. But the last thing I'm going to say on that is got a lot of people in here from different areas of my life, and I knew one person when I moved here not even 3 years ago. I've got women from my country club and from my school and friends in my community, and then those of you in Working Women. So thank you so much, and some really special women in here from Working Women that I've just become really good friends with. So thank you. Give us all a hand here. All right. So a couple things. First of all, we don't have an agenda, and I really am an agenda type of person. So I'm going to tell you high level what the agenda is, and I'm also going to share something that's pretty great. Slideshare.net is a great website. Some of us in business already know about it, and what it does is you can post anything to it. So the agenda is on slideshare.net, and it's called Working Women, What to Ask For. Uh-oh, what is it called? What is this lunch? When to go for it. What is this lunch? When to go for it, so you can find it. But just say real quick, let me tell you what the agenda is going to be. So I'm going to talk until noon. I'm going to start the timer here. Give myself 30 minutes here in a moment. It's going to be an easy talk. I'm going to talk about TV. So that's easy. 3 topics. I have so much to tell you, so much I want to say, but I want to make sure I hit the critical. So I'm going to kind of watch my time if you don't mind. That's why I'll be looking at my phone just to keep on the topic. After that, we'll have lunch. Jessica will have some information to give out to us. And then I have a great announcement at the end, and I have something to tell you that's a big surprise at the end. I'm having a drawing. I don't know about you, but I love free stuff. So, and I talked to Jessica, and I had this grandiose idea of all the flowers to give you and all this stuff to give you, and I tried to give you what I could. You'll kind of laugh. You'll see my business pen is the green, and the notebook is from the company when I was a vice president I just moved here from. But I do have, I think, like 5 or 6 or 7 gifts. So stay tuned for the drawing. So there's 2 gifts that you're not going to get here, but I'm going to send to you in my office, and I'm going to tell you what they are. The 19th person that links or that Twitter connects with me, and the 19th person that goes to Instagram and connects with me gets a Starbucks card. And that's because I need more followers, and we're going to talk about the S in the TVS, so stay relevant, why that's important, and why you'll feel the same way that I do now, which is you need followers. So you've got that information on my card. That's something there. And then, so then we'll end with, if anyone wants to buy books, got some books at a great price that we'll sign. So any questions on the agenda? Slideshare.net. Okay. All right, so it is administrative professional services. They still have a really good joke. So here's my joke, and I'm not really great at selling jokes, so let's try. All right, so a large organization had recently hired several cannibals. After conducting a lengthy new hire orientation, the human resource director congratulated the cannibals and said, "You are all part of the team now. You get all the benefits we've discussed, and you get to enjoy our company cafe free of charge. But please don't eat any other employees." Each of the cannibals promised that they wouldn't. After a few weeks, the cannibal's boss seemed very pleased, but also a little worried. She said, "You've all been working hard, and I'm satisfied with you. However, one of our secretaries has disappeared. Do any of you know what happened to her?" The cannibals all shook their heads no. After the boss left, the leader of the cannibals was a bit angry. She said, "Okay, which of you dummies ate the secretary or administrative professional?" A hand rose up hesitantly in admission. "You fool," said the leader. "For weeks we've been eating managers and no one noticed anything, but no, you had to go and eat someone important." Is that a great joke? I loved it. I've been like telling that joke to myself like all week. I love it. I think it's a great one. Okay, all right. So I'm kind of going fast, and I think it's because we started a little bit late, so I'll try to calm down a bit. So sorry. And I'm a coffee lover, just not during a business meeting, so there's a little bit of that. All right, so I have a note to myself here, which I think is good, and it says, if you don't enjoy what you do, you'll never be good at it. So I'm just going to have fun and enjoy this, and just have a good conversation, but it is important. And I did make myself bullets, so I'm just kind of going to go through that. All right. Okay, so I want to talk about briefly before we get into TVs, my book. And the reason, not just sell books, but that is true. The reason really is it's going to give you insight to who I am and why I feel compelled to give out the advice I'm going to give out and instruction. So my book kind of came together about items that I would tell and teach my female employees. So when I brought on people onto my firm, the profile was recent college graduate. At that point, I didn't care what their undergrad degree was. It just showed me, right, that they could, achieve a goal. It showed me they had the basic skill set. And way back when I started my first company, they didn't have computer skills. I had to teach all of that. I had to teach all the office skills and that. But now, of course, when we hire out of college, and usually we want grad degrees now, is a certain profile. So what would happen is I get women young ladies, right, that I'd hire, and they wouldn't necessarily even know like what to wear to a meeting. And so there's all this type of information that you don't really put into an employee handbook. So that's really what compiles in my book. So it's different stories that seem basic to me that a lot of us more seasoned, maybe the girls, those of us not in our 20s, professionals, know or take for granted. But as I sent my book around to colleagues, the feedback I would get is, Liza, that's not as obvious to me as it is to you. And there's also that idea that I might have heard something 5 times, and sometimes it's not until the 6th time, right, that it sticks with me or it becomes more relevant what I'm doing. So the other thought I was trying to remember this morning, I remembered her name was Joanna, that one of the very first jobs I got in my career, actually the first key job, was for me to be the senior engineer for the Weyerhaeuser company. I was 24 years old, and this is when I worked for IBM. And they should not have put a 24-year-old as the senior engineer. And I had a project manager I reported to, and then a manager there. A manager above her. Those 2 managers went into the hospital on medical stress leave. And so guess who's in charge? I was 24, right? But and that was actually turned out to be one of the best things for my career. So we'll talk about that in a moment. But even at that 24-year-old, Weyerhaeuser had given me an administrative assistant, Joanna, and she was just crazy great, So I've always had that mini team in my life, and I've always somehow in me to help that person and improve things and work together, and I've always felt like I've got good advice. So I wrote the book because that's the kind of person and that's that I am. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about that book. Okay. All right, so let's talk about the T and what the 3 points that I'd like to bring in. I'm acutely aware that we all have to-do lists and emails and so much going on in our lives. And we go to some of these business seminars, and we're hoping that we can learn things. We're hoping that we can learn something new, right? And so I really kind of retooled what I wanted to say, because I really wanted to make sure you guys had takeaways. So the very first point is the T, and the T for me is importance of team. Now, some of my girlfriends that know me, I can tell that's a little kind of tired and old a little bit, but the girlfriends that know me know that, first of all, it's always about the team and anything I'm doing. Even at my first book launch, it was all about thanking those people in my team, because it was a team effort. It wasn't just me. So on the contrary, it really kind of upsets me when I feel like people pull from the team, or they're not doing what they should be, or they don't support. So it's really something that maybe it's a personal issue that I need to work towards, that bothers me a lot, but it does. It's really, the importance of team is so critical. So really how we should think of it as women, support. We all need support. We need support in motherhood. We need support as friends from your girlfriends, right? Maybe in our relationships. We need support with our internal team in our company. We need support, and we need to provide support in our client team. So really the idea is my message on team, or what we call support, is go build the support team that you need to accomplish what you need. So in my scenario, I have not even lived here for 3 years. I knew one person. I knew the administration's admin person at the school. I didn't know anyone. So I needed to build all of those teams. And a lot of us are moms in here and some of us aren't. But as a mom, you really want a team. You want someone that you can call in an emergency to say, can you pick up my kids from school? I've got something going on, right? So the message here in our career is, if you know of an opportunity that you might want to learn more about, build a team around you as an advisor, as an advising set, right? So I want to talk a little bit more about how we build that team. The thing that I found out early in corporate America, in my business and before when I was with IBM, is that I didn't really understand how to be a team player, most likely because I really wasn't in team sports. I was a swimmer. That's not really a team sport. I was a cheerleader. That's not really a sport. What else was I in? I was a tennis. Actually it is. I take that back. It's a huge sport. It's gymnastics. Yeah. Well, for me, it wasn't a sport. It was, it's a long time ago. So I have been deliberate in making sure my daughters are in team sports. And that's one of the advantages I think the boys get, because their sports are in the more team-dependent sports, that they understand you're sometimes on the bench. You're sometimes bringing water to the team. You're sometimes the superstar, right? They're all important, and it takes everyone to make it happen. But more than that, I think what you learn if you're really a team player is you learn the importance of being able to not be the superstar. And for those of us that are real go-getters and want to lead and have always been the kind of person that's wanted to lead, it's very good for me to know when not to lead and to be a support. I'll tell you, once I kind of got that, and I didn't learn it the hard, I learned it the hard way through my career, a couple times of failing and figuring it out that, my time will come and there will be a time when I am leading the team. I need to be good support. Once I got that, you would not believe the amount of respect that I gained and how people looked at me differently, like, okay, we can count on Liza. She might be the whippersnapper engineer in here and she might really think that she's super smart, but look at what she's willing to do for the team. Look at the length and the work ethic she has. Let's think about her next year as maybe being the lead engineer. So really understanding and kind of thinking about, and I'll know one last thing about that, is when I struggle, we all have these in board meetings or on associations I'm at, usually the struggle has to do with someone not wanting to work as a team, typically. So if you kind of know that, kind of think about it, maybe you can help steer that in a better way. And you know what I didn't do is I didn't watch the clock. Okay, thank you. All right. So why is team important to a business owner? Just briefly, might be obvious, but important: duplication of effort. So as we grew, my offices grew from having an office in Seattle, then we had an office in Portland. Our clients were Nike when they were growing like mad in Portland. Kroger, we had lots of reasons to be in Portland, and so we actually got an office there as well. But what we had to do to get to the next level, you hear that term all the time, I'm trying to take my business to the next level. You know how? Duplicate yourself. Duplicate your service. Well, how do you do that? Team, right? Teach the team to provide your service, right, to duplicate it so that you can grow that way. So again, if you don't have a good team, if you can't model that team, you're not going to be able to do that. We talked about why, if I'm not a business owner, but I'm in the corporate world, I work for a company, one of the most important thing about being a great team member, as I said, is because you gain respect. I have a note in there about how today's technician is tomorrow's manager. So here's my story. I think it might be in the book. So my fun story is this. So I was in Seattle, and one of the very first contracts I got was the Bon Marché, which was owned by Macy's. You guys know Bon Marché? Did you ever know? Okay. 60 stores in 5 states. Crazy contract. I was the engineer, and we had done maybe 20 stores. So we were on our way. We had a great team. And in fact, my mentor is she wrote the foreword, Robin Button. She was the project manager, and I learned a lot from her. She was awesome. The story is that this technician from Salt Lake, which is actually where I'm from, came up to Washington State to do one of our stores, and the guy, probably we were the same age, thought he was the bomb, right? And he thought he knew every single way to do it. It was totally contrary to how we had been doing it. But he was so smart. He knew it, even though we'd done 20. They were great. Well, of course, being in my 20s wasn't the greatest. I'm sure I didn't handle it the best. I wasn't the project manager, so it was insulated. But I was just, okay. In my mind, I'm like, I can't wait until we're done with this site with him. And, he doesn't know what he's talking about all along. Of course, he could feel it. Of course, he knew that we didn't like each other too much. Well, so cut to probably 5 or 6 years later, they promote him to be the installation manager in Portland. And my butt's in front of his office, in the chair in the office, saying, I'd really like you to use us for installations, please, in Portland. It was about a year and a half that we didn't have much work in Portland. Why would he? He didn't like me at all. And I didn't deserve it. So again, this idea of right support and team, right? You absolutely never know. And the other idea, and this is something that as telecom people talk about, technician people talk, or technical people, as you know, in your industry, it's usually the same players. They've just moved around, and that includes you, right? So your clients or your competition or people you see, they're going to stay in the same vertical. They're just going to move around. So just be great, right? Be professional. We all don't, you're not going to like everyone, and everyone's not going to like you, but no one has to know, right? All right, so that's important for team. The last thing on support, and we'll talk and go to the next item, is that I've had this conversation with some women and girlfriends of mine, and it applies to business, and it's actually something I put now in my book when I sign. Just ask for what you want. Just ask for support. Just ask for what you need. Just ask. We had a conversation this morning. What was your? Yeah, Morgan. She's awesome. She was telling me about her daughter. Stepdaughter, who's in her 20s in business, and she's trying to find the golden ticket because she wants a promotion and wants to move around. And we talked about, is there a golden ticket? You know what, there is. I think there's a golden ticket. Asking, right? Because what happens if I ask you to consider me? And I did. When I was my very first position with IBM, I asked for some contract administration job. I have no idea why I did, but I did. I didn't get it, but I gained respect of my first line manager. Say, really? Awesome. She's been here like 5 seconds and she's asking. But it goes with what I'm saying with support. Think in your mind what area you're trying to grow in, what achievement you're trying to move towards, what position, what company, what directive you're trying to reach, and just start asking for the help, asking for support. And we're all super women in here. We're women. So that means we're super by virtue of how we are. We can juggle everything. We can do everything. We believe we can do everything. We can't. We can do it with a little bit of help. So ask. So that's support. Okay? We'll move on to the next one. All right. And so we're going to start eating as well. I don't want people to wait to eat. Jessica? Well, I'm feeling like I should eat. I'm totally fine with people eating while I talk. My daughters do it all the time. So yeah. There you go. Okay, so please, yes, so bon appetit, and we'll talk about the next one. How am I doing on speed? Am I still talking too fast? Oh, no? Good? A little? Okay. All right. Okay. I don't want to spend, all right, so I'll talk a little bit louder, but yes, feel free to eat, please do. So the V in TVs is value, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I love my last topic the best. So value. So people will say, you hear it all the time, and if you're a business owner, you might even say it a lot, where people will say, I'm doing business, people do business with me because of who I am, because of me, right? You hear people do business with people. If I wasn't here, if I wasn't handling this account, they would never have that account, right? Really, that's not really the reason. I mean, that could be a factor, but that's not the reason. And I've heard a lot of people say, no, that's the reason. I'm telling you, Liza, they only come here because of me, or it's not true. And in fact, I even know it's been proven that it isn't true for my own clients, because I can only think of one. I might have more, but I at least had one client. She was awesome, and she worked with me for 9 years. Loved her. Very just an awesome gal, and she wanted to cut back, and I understand that. And I said, no problem. But she says, I think I'll just cut back, and I think I'll just go ahead and take this one client, Westridge. I'm like, well, first of all, we have a non-compete, so it's not really going to be good. Second of all, it doesn't kind of work that way. And it actually, unfortunately, it wasn't great. You know, you have things you go through where my client just came to me and said, Liza, we love her. She's great, but no, we're doing the company with BIC was my first company. So I've seen that firsthand. But my point is this. My clients do business with me because they like me and because they know that I take care of their end users and because they know I execute what my contract says. But why my clients do business with me is because I give them the value they need, right? So the V in the TV is value. So if you approach value in really its purest form and you really concentrate on value, look at it this two ways. This will help you. So as a business owner, understand that if you bring your contract in under budget, they've got the value that they need. They'll continue to work for you. If you're an employee, if you work for someone, if you bring value in your job to your manager, they will hopefully promote you. They will hopefully move you forward. When I'm talking with women that perhaps they're going from director to VP or from manager to director, I say it's not about you going in and telling them all of your credentials, all of what you're doing and you've done. That's a little part of it. The biggest key is what is the value that you can bring that will benefit the person you're interviewing with or will benefit and execute that job. That's the huge thing. And if you think of it that way, even to the CEO of the company that you work for or the executive management, if you're like, well, how do I get ahead? What is the objective? What's the mission? What's the objective? What is the real tangible objective of the company that you want to excel in, and how can you provide that? That's the real way to think about it. And understanding that at base level, it's a value. I mean, how many of you, I started going to a hair salon and I felt like, I think I'm a generous, tipping person and I'm a good client and it's not in an expensive place. And I came in one time and says, yeah, we just upped all the prices by 20%. And so the first thing I said is, well, is anyone grandfathered? Right? You're like, well, what about, no one's grandfathered. It's 20%. Well, I'm looking for another salon. And it doesn't even matter if it was 5% or 2% or 20%, right? Yeah. So we know that we see it ourselves. I mean, we might stop going to our favorite restaurant if we get food poisoning, obviously, probably. So we're motivated by what do we, at the end of the day, we might love the person, we might love the company, we might love the experience. If we don't get the value, we're not going to continue. So if you think of that when you're trying for something in business or when you're trying to gain a contract, and it's very real for us because when we're competing against large clients like Worldwide Technology and Dimension Data, it's not about the money, and the money can be pretty big fluctuations. But we're all pretty much right in the same area. I have to come up with value different from my competitors. And the last point about value that I just thought about, what I come up with is something that's called, and you might know these buzzwords, added value or a value add-on, right? So I have to come up with a way to distinguish my services so that we're not all apples. So I'm the orange because our price might be the same. They like us all the same, but what value can I bring to them that they don't have? And sometimes I have to be very creative, and sometimes I have to really, go at it and maybe say, well, we provide this and this and this and this. So again, if you just know that's the crux of it, it's something that I didn't always know and didn't always understand, but especially in today's economy, which from my standpoint is really is amazing, I think. There's so much opportunity and businesses are back on track and budgets are back. From what I see, from my standpoint, being very competitive means you've got to make sure you're bringing different levels of value than you normally have. Okay? Where's the rest of the food for the poor starving over here? I'm kidding. Okay. The last, I am talking fast. Okay. The S is my favorite topic. So team, which means support really for me, right? The V was value. The last one is stay relevant. So how many people are always telling you, stay relevant, stay relevant? I was like, what does this mean, right? What does this mean? First of all, it is true. And probably a year ago, I'd say, well, I am relevant. I'm here. I'm supporting my family. I'm a professional. I'm a good mom, right? Everyone in this room, we're all relevant. So it's sort of interesting. But the idea of staying relevant, in this last year, I have studied and read and attended people that know what they're talking about enough to know that it's true. We all need to stay relevant. So talk about what that means. Well, let's talk about how we become relevant. See, no reason to have notes, really. I should just talk, right? Okay, so let's talk about what that means. So staying relevant, what does it mean? First of all, it means in whatever vertical market you're in, stay in, understand, be plugged into what's going on in your vertical market, right? So for those of you, you're in banking, you know what's going on, what's the latest breakthroughs. How I do it for myself is LinkedIn is great, right? I'm in a number of different connect groups there, women in technology. So I try to stay relevant through understanding and reading those types of things. The other way I stay relevant and just talking in my industry is I'm making sure that there's at least 2 major conventions that I go to in the year. So it just so happened this last one was in Orlando called Enterprise Connect. So that was close. But there's another one in Anaheim that I'm going to. I've got to be there. Because when you go to those conventions, for those of you that know, what you're doing is I'm hitting every booth or trying to during the vendor times of the booth of companies I've never heard about before, or the big hitters to find out what's going on, right? So a lot of you already know this. That might be a good reminder as well. So that helps me stay relevant. The other idea is to make sure within your own company, if you're not the business owner, right, make sure you understand what the changes are going on within your own company. I mean, the last thing you ever want to be is, be in some meeting and be like, I'm the last one to know that we were merging with this particular company or the acquisition was this. You might not know the details of it, but you should be plugged into your job and into your position and into your company enough to know what the direction was, so it's no surprise, right? So that's one way to stay relevant within your industry. The other way to stay relevant that also goes with support is sort of the obvious why we're in Working Women Tampa Bay, right? To be in the professional networking organizations. And honestly, it's such a blessing to have an organization like Working Women Tampa Bay and really to have a founder like Jessica that is so, I'm so excited about her nonprofit and about the scholarship and about helping women that have businesses. But you do have to go test them out and go to them and do your homework. So I did that before I decided to land on the ones I'm in, which are very few, but to make sure it's the one that you want to be plugged into. I did read a book. I'm reading a book right now, Progressive Partnerships. It's an excellent book. And there's a chapter on it where what the guy did is he started his own networking groups like in Asia and internationally. But what I liked about it is he talked about how he'd go to these networking events and he hated it. He's like, I go there, I get dressed up, and here he's not even a woman, all the makeup, everything that we do. And he says, I'm just so bored, and I meet the same people, and all they want to do is talk about this. So what he did is he changed it because he realized it wasn't the networking event, it was him. It was how he approached it, and he got what he gave, right? So you get what you put in. So what he did was he said, make sure, and so this is very important, make sure when you go to an event, even today, come with one thing that you want. So maybe if I was a young professional, I'd say, you know what, I would like one client in the, engineering space. So come very specific to what your ask is. And so he would do that. So then it wouldn't be a waste of time. The other way that he approached it that I liked was he said he would come with some kind of unbelievable story or something like that, or some crazy question, just to make it not exactly like one event to the next. So that's kind of I got a little bit off on a tangent on networking, but that's another way, and I know all of you know that because we're here today, we stay relevant. The last way, I think, let me double check. The last big way is social media. So it's still pretty funny how even my mother won't be on Facebook. And I have this conversation. Thank you. I have this conversation with other people that, I won't be on Facebook. They know too much, and I'm not into looking at everyone's what they ate for dinner and what color is their dog's ribbon and blah, 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 right? And the whole thing is, so that's Facebook, and the different medias, right? Twitter and Instagram and Snapchat and some others. They're all very different. And I have been studying social media. So I have been reading books, and I have been going and listening to people speak, and I have hired 3 different social media companies to market for me. So I feel like I'm living it now. I am tweeting almost every day. I'm feeling like, okay, so you get a little bit of benefit of what I've been doing for about the last 14 months. And trust me, when I started about 14 months ago, I said, absolutely not. There's no time in my day for me to be doing this. And really, what? I never take pictures I didn't cook for my daughters. It's just I was so this over here, and now I'm over here. So here's why. It absolutely, from what the experts say, and I do believe in it, it is the marketing, right? It is the marketing platform. It is here to stay, number one. Number two, through social media marketing and through what we've all seen now, GoFundMe and fundraising and community involvement and community awareness, this is our communication medium for not just the community, but for ourselves. So you say, well, you know what? I don't really care if I have a lot of Twitter followers. Yes, you do. It's not necessarily because you want to sell a book, because right now that's what I'm working on, right? That's why I'm trying to get followers, is to sell my book. But you don't know right now as you sit why you will want to be able to communicate to a large number of people. But if you believe what I say, where I say ask for what you want or ask for support, there will be times in your life, maybe not for you, maybe for a friend. Maybe not for you, maybe for family. Maybe for you. Because maybe you're trying to find someone that's going to help you in a career decision or in a move decision, or be like me, come into a city that you don't know one for. So my point on the staying relevant is that it's important for you to understand social media. It's important for you to understand the different ways that it applies to your life and the different things you do on social media, because there's a whole, some of you know, what you post on one is different than what you post on the other. And so really, if any of you were in this room and had that same kind of feeling like I did, like I don't need it and just something more to look at. And remember, I'm a software engineer, so there was many years that I wouldn't even want, even as it started, I didn't want to open up my laptop, because to me it was work, right? So I really resisted that part. But it is important. And from what you hear from the experts, this is the groundswell. And you don't want to be 10 years from now, they say, you don't want to be from 10 years from now where you're completely left behind. I don't know if I believe that 100% or not. But so that's a really important message. And that's why I expect to see everyone connecting with me on Twitter. And if you don't have a Twitter account, set one up. On Instagram, if you don't have an Instagram account, set one up. And connect with me, please. I have to wrap it up. Okay, so I'm going to wrap it up with bullets. Here's something I do in my life and for business. Meet with one person a month. Pick them out. Some of you admire, some of you haven't talked to. Make a point to say, I'm going to go have coffee with this person. Meet with one person a month that you can learn from and grow from. Don't reinvent the wheel. No reason to. If there's something you need, talk to people, find someone, call me. I love Fiverr, I love Elance. If you don't know about them, let me tell you about them. Don't struggle at things you don't need to. You've got a limited amount of energy and time and money, so don't do that. Make sure today, connect with one person today and have them be your next 30-day person. Just come in and eat for lunch here and read my blogs. I'm just kidding. That was on here, but it wasn't to say. And I know, and here's the last thing. Here's a thought. Try to act today like whatever job you're in, you're brand new to it. And what I mean by that is, remember when you're new, it's your first day on the job or first week or going through employee training, where you're like, take on anything or do anything, like, oh, well, you have to do this. Like, okay, great. Or, you might have to you're so open to things when you're first starting or in something new. So just kind of approach it that way, and maybe you'll be surprised on how much you'll grow. So that's a lot of words in a short amount of time. Thank you very much, and we'll come back to the end. The announcement is this. So I'm writing a second book because I'm kind of that person that once I learn a process, I'm like, let me just do it one more time. So more than that, I feel like God is leading me to this book. So we are announcing today that this book has already been picked up by TG Publishing, and it's called 4 Years of Grace. I want to solicit stories of grace that have happened to you within those last 4 years. Now, if you have a great one and it's outside the 4 years, please submit it. On my website, we're putting out the video of what the ask is. Some people call them miracles. Some people call them coincidences. I believe that they're stories from grace. I have some in my life. I've heard a bunch of them. We're putting together this next book. So you've got the yellow sheet there. That's my announcement.